Howdy, howdy, and welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. This time it's what's new, updates, and features released in October of 2019. Of course, my name is Chris Mercer. I do go by Mercer, and I'm the co-founder of MeasurementMarketing.io. You can find our content on such platforms as Digital Marketer, Conversion Excel, Social Media Examiner, and of course, all of the different courses and training options that we have over at MeasurementMarketing.io. Now, our main job here is to help people just like yourself learn how to know their numbers so they can ultimately grow the numbers. And we do that through helping people learn how to use tools like Analytics and Tag Manager and Data Studio and, Facebook Analytics, tools like that. And we do this using the measurement marketing framework. And the reason that we cover this before we dive into today's training, today's workshop, is to help put it in context. Now, there are 5 key pillars to measurement marketing. Planning, which is figuring out which questions are important to answer and getting the information and then what actions you're going to take, all that fun stuff, what the dashboards are going to look like and, all of that. Then there's the build out where you use Tag Manager and Google Analytics. Then there's reporting where you're using Data Studio or spreadsheets or maybe even the built-in reports to get your answers. Then you forecast based upon what your answers are. And then of course you can optimize because you're going to send traffic and you're going to measure against what your forecast was so that you know where you're hitting the mark and where you're not. Now, today's training is all about what changed in these tools over the last 30 days. There was a lot that changed. So it's going to affect mostly the build and the reporting stages because Tag Manager had some updates, Analytics has updates, and of course, our old standby Google Data Studio, once again, for the winter, has a ton of updates as well. All right, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and carry forth. Remember, with all of these workshops, just get one idea, one new thing, because we cover a lot. And so there's a lot that can happen with these that can get you kind of overwhelmed and frustrated because there's so much going on. That's why we're making this particular one public so that you can rewatch it over and over and over again so that you can pick up the next new idea. So take something, go, oh, cool, I didn't know about that. Let's go learn more about that. Pick it up as a skill, practice it, come back, watch this one again to pick up something else. All right. Let's go ahead and get started and dive right into this. What's new? Updates and features released in October 2019. Now, we're just going to dive right in because there was a ton this month. I love months like this. So first and foremost, we're going to pull up Google Analytics, and we're going to start with Google Analytics. Now, we like going through here to see what's new, if there are new reports, things along those lines. The biggest change that has happened in the last few months has been this new sort of what we're calling the Google Analytics 2.0, this new web plus app property. And I imagine the Google Analytics team is really 100% focused on that. That said, if you go to admin, and you come into your admin section, you go down to your property, you will now notice data deletion requests sitting there. So what is this? I thought this was really interesting. I also think this is great that they're doing this. And this is something you probably need to be aware of if you're not redacting PII. Remember, there is lots of ways to do this. Tag Manager makes this really easy to redact PII, so I'm sure you can go look for that if you're not doing that. But remember, personally identifiable information, things like email addresses, zip codes, street addresses, first names, last names, all of that stuff, a lot of shopping carts pass that through as URL parameters, and that's recorded in Google Analytics and the page view hits, and it's not Google Analytics' fault. It's not the shopping cart's fault. It's just sort of an artifact of how the internet was built, and a lot of carts do this sort of stuff. They pass that stuff through. Well, you should be redacting that. You should be removing that and adjusting that, and there's lots of different ways you can do that. You can Google for that now that you know that it's a thing. But what I thought was really interesting is how they phrased this data deletion requests. So over here, they're actually talking about they are going to specifically start scrubbing through Google Analytics because before, unless I guess you were, and I've never had this happen, fortunately, we still might, obviously, just as you might, but I've never heard of a big violator of this terms of service where they were so blatantly collecting personal identifiable information that Google shut them down. But I would imagine that was the only thing that Google could have done because it was like, okay, you have to stop using this tool or you can use this tool. There was no gray area. Now, Google's going to be able to go through your information that you've recorded, and they're going to be able to scrub through it to see, is there something they think is personally identifiable? If so, they are going to create a data deletion request, and they're going to give you the chance to basically say, hey, this is invalid. We need to keep this data, and here's why. It's not personally identifiable, right? Or it's going to be a request that is created, and then the general flow of this is that, and you can also do this. If you know that you've got information that you can come in here and you can create, say, between these dates, I want to take out these fields, that have these things, whatever, and go through here. But the premise is it starts a 7-day clock. So 7 days, nothing happens. It's kind of a little quarantine. And that way, if somebody, because essentially as long as you have edit permissions in Google Analytics, you can create a data deletion. So if anybody can edit in Google Analytics, another reason to check your user permissions, but if they can edit, they can create these requests. 7-day clock starts. If you've created this, a 7-day clock starts, and then it gets deleted. That 7-day clock is to basically make sure the admin can come in and get rid of it if they need to, or somebody can backtrack it if it was accidentally submitted. So that's kind of what that is. Kind of like your recycle bin or your trash in your desktop. So same sort of idea. Again, what I think is really interesting about this is that's not what they talked about here. In the help docs, in the Google support docs, it talks about that sort of thing where you are proactively coming in and deleting information for GDPR and things like that. Totally would make sense for our friends in Europe and everywhere else that's focused on GDPR compliance and trying to maintain that. But this was interesting. The way they phrase it here, it sort of reads like, hey, before we, being Google, before we delete data, Google will generate a data deletion request to give you the opportunity to review the PII and then either make changes so that you stop collecting it, or you can argue against it. You can appeal it and say, hey, this looks like, PII, but it's not. So I think that is really, really interesting. So I would definitely, this is one of those stay tuned areas. It's also, I wouldn't expect major changes to happen with this particular version of Google Analytics because so much information or so much effort, I would believe, is being put toward the apps and web, which is their brand new one, right? This whole new interface. But this is one of those ones that I think it's necessary. Like they have to figure out how to get rid of PII information for compliance and data privacy and user compliance, and to give control of data back to us as individuals, as companies, so that we can get rid of people's individual data if we need to, right? So this is kind of a really cool thing I think that they've allowed as kind of a first step. And again, this is kind of like a stay tuned to this spot because this is just a few weeks old. So as of this recording anyway, so definitely worth paying attention to say, okay, this is interesting. It's, let's just stay back here and see what happens. And maybe not be surprised if all of a sudden some notices start coming through to say you're collecting PII, and then figuring out how do I put steps into place? Now, if that happens to you, think about Tag Manager, look at Simo Ahava. In fact, I'm just going to show it to you because it's exactly what I would do. I would do Simo Ahava. He was amazing. So Simo Ahava, Google Tag Manager, redact PII. And he will have a post right there, how to remove PII hits. Go through this process. That's essentially it. And it'll help you to make sure that you redact PII and that you are removing that. And of course, you can adjust the script accordingly if you need to for your own situation. But that's where I would start. So that was a big one for Google Analytics. And I just wanted to make you aware of that so you weren't surprised. Like, know that that's back here. Be aware of that. And if it's kind of been for you, like, oh, one day maybe we'll get around to checking PII, you might want to start doing that earlier than later so that you get ahead of the curve. Like start redacting stuff now if you're not, because at this point it's going to become more of an urgent thing as opposed to just an important thing to do. Now it's going to be urgent and important when you start getting data deletion requests. So again, I don't know that's going to happen for you in your particular situation, but look at that. Like that just says like, hey, we're going to have to adjust this. So something to keep in mind. All right, so that's the biggest thing with Google Analytics. 100%. Make sure that you go through this. Do a quick little audit for personal identifiable information. Look for email addresses. Look for @ symbols in your page views. In your page reports, things like that. Look for zip codes. Check your thank you pages and the parameters of the URL. And then again, redact if you need to, if it's back there. So just a little FYI there. Second up. Also as big, which is just kind of nice. Like it's been a while since we've had all three platforms have such major changes. But Google Tag Manager is swinging for the fences, continuing to evolve templates. I love this. I love templates. So now these came out a long while back, and they've been out for a while in the public world, but they're very developer focused. So you can create your own custom templates. They answer problems that a lot of enterprise level companies have that are using Tag Manager, so that they don't have marketers sort of run amok with putting different pixels and code on pages. And there really was nowhere to really customize Tag Manager for the purposes of a big giant enterprise. Enter templates. They totally solve that problem, or at least they make major steps and strides to solving that problem. That said, what has now happened is there is a gallery. So you can go into Search Gallery here and you can see all of the different tags that have been created as templates. So they've opened up this gallery now and this is what's key about this. third parties, not necessarily the company now. So it's not, and that's the difference between these tags. So if you go to tags and you click on new in Tag Manager, you can see you've got, there's the Google tags. Then you see there's all of these built-in tags that are here, but these are like Fox Metrics by Fox Metrics. This is another one, K50s by K50, Lead Labs by Lead Lab. This was the company that was putting these in, Hotjars by Hotjar, right? So it's the company's official one that was approved by Google and put in this list, and they still update. So you can still see back here, there's Bing and Pinterest and everything else. Now, here you see this, discover more tags, again, just different way into that community gallery. This is a way for the company to, almost like a public domain, to say, hey, here's our tag, and it's not officially approved by Google and vetted or whatever that Google does in order to get in that other section of Tag Manager, but this is a much faster way for a company to get their own pixel in, which they did here. So Acquire.io for Acquire's pixel, but then you see this, Simo Ahava has shared his ad form tracking one. Simo's also shared the ad service one. He did one for Facebook. It was one of the original ones that he did. Here's a one that he shared for Facebook. Now, this is not Facebook's code. This is not Facebook saying, here's our tag manager, but essentially, and this is the one that we added, it works just like that, which is great. So I can come in here, and I'm going to show you this very quickly because it's not really the purpose of this training to show you how to use these, but it works. You can see under custom, I've added it into ours. So I click here and it works just like a built-in. I put in my pixel ID. I say, enable whatever I want for these advanced matching. I have all these options. These are constantly being updated, which is also great. As you come through here and you say, I want to do a page view, or I want to do a lead, or I want to do a purchase, right? Or whatever, or I want to do something else completely custom and then name it something. Like everything is in there and it's built in. It works like a built-in tag. So you get all of the beauty of the built-in tag, which is you don't have to mess with code. You don't have to worry about accidentally putting in a semicolon in the wrong spot and taking something down in your site. You can use these built-in permissions. Now, again, just because these exist doesn't mean they're not going to take down your site. It's unlikely, but possible still, as with all things with Tag Manager. So still trust but verify. Make sure you're previewing heavily and you test and preview and really make sure things are going well. Work with your developers if your site is extremely complicated. Working with your developers and making sure that they're part of your team to go through here and make sure that they're cool with this, because they can see how these were actually built, which is great. So they can come in here and they can take a look at the template itself and adjust code accordingly. So, but that's what it is. You update it. Now, the other cool thing about the gallery, and this very much reminds me of WordPress, right? That same thing that WordPress does with plugins, where when a plugin updates, you get a message. Well, look at this. See, one template updated. So there was an update to the Facebook template, to my Facebook tag that I was using. And I can see that right in here. If I go to templates, you'll see here are the ones that I've added. And then, of course, you can do variables, right? So there's a gallery, I assume, for variables that are coming through. So there's a lot of cool things you can do there. But here, you click on little update. And I've yet to do this. This is my first official update. So we're going to click on update. And then I'll go through and then say, okay, here are the changes. And now it's going through. Here are the different changes, the before and after that I love with Tag Manager. This is a great thing they do. So here's what the current one is. Here's what the new one's going to look like. Here's what was changed, right? So it has a little versioning coming through. I'm just going to accept it in this case, but you could go through all the different changes so you can see everything. So we're going to accept this. And this basically is now updating that tag to work. This is our demo site. That's why I'm going so fast. Again, if this was public and not our demo site, I would go a little bit slower and just trust but verify. At this point, I would hit preview, make sure everything works, et cetera, et cetera. But I love this versatility. This makes Tag Manager even that much more powerful than it already was. And it gives you, especially as a marketer, which is most likely who's watching this right now, you're mostly in a marketer standpoint. Even as a developer, you have that ability to put things into the gallery. But go through here and you can see all the different things that are back here. All the time there are new things being added. Like this is relatively new and just exploded in popularity. So it's getting better and better and better. I would say basically every day there's something new back here. So now you've got a couple of places to check. When you go to get a new tag, you can use the existing script, but you should check for a built-in and you should check maybe for a template and see if a template might be an option. But again, it makes templates more usable now from a marketer standpoint that you can go back here. Again, never skip your developer conversation. You want to make sure you're working with your development team on your site to make sure they're also good with this, because they can actually see the behind the scenes of how this stuff works. But it's super, super versatile and really is going to help continue, I think, expand Tag Manager's dominance in the marketplace. So just yet another reason to get back into Google Tag Manager if you haven't already. Next up, Data Studio. And again, Data Studio for the win because they have so many changes month after month after month. Again, kudos to the Data Studio team. I don't personally know any of you, but you're rocking it out. Your passion for this product is obvious because it changes again. They have a bunch of stuff. So let's go through what's coming through here. So we're going to start with, let's do some simple stuff. So we're going to go into pie chart. So in a pie chart, you can now do contrast. And this isn't really perfectly designed for this, but just to kind of give you the premise. So we have the design, and you can change the design, whatever you want. This is all normal stuff. The difference is, let's flip this to label so we can see that mobile, desktop, and then we can come down here. It says text contrast is what that says. So this is the new feature. So you can make it high text contrast, which will adjust automatically to the color, medium or low. So you can kind of make it a little bit easier to read. A little hard to tell, obviously, in this one what the difference is, but you can kind of see, it grays it out. Let's just try this. I'm going to try to do a gray. Oops, let's do this. We'll do color, single color. And let's keep it green, see what shows up here. So there's low contrast, medium contrast, a little different, and then high contrast labels. So maybe a little brighter there. So again, just something that I thought was kind of interesting just from a design perspective. So if that's kind of your mix, there you go. So you have that option now for Data Studio. Something else we have the option for. This is exciting. I like this a lot. Conditional formatting. So see, I just clicked on the table. I'm still in the style section now. So in the style section, you see conditional formatting. This works exactly like Google Sheets, exactly like Excel. For those of you who have wished for this, this is huge. So I can come in here and I can say, well, I want to do page views. When page views are greater than, let's say 500, then do I want the entire row, or do I want users, or do I want the source, or do I want the page views lit up? Well, let's just light up the page views section. And let's make that yellow, right? So we have that, and I'll keep the text. Let's keep that. You know what? Why not? We'll do red and yellow. Make it McDonald's style. So then we'll do that. Now I'm going to go ahead and just click. I can hit save or save another. I'm just going to click on save. Watch this. Everything above 500 automatically lit up. Now this is different than a heat map because the heat map section, which is built into Data Studio, hopefully you've used this already. The heat map section itself will switch it so that it automatically adjusts. Everything adjusts based on, we're just using this little blue color here, but we could say we want to use this color. So adjust it on blue. Conditional formatting then overwrites that. It changes it and says, well, if it's higher than this, then do that. If it's lower than this, then do that. If it equals this, then do that. Like that's how this works, just like a spreadsheet. And you can light up the entire row. You can light up another row based on what this value is. Like I think that's super, super useful. So we use conditional formatting all the time in spreadsheets. Now we can use it in Data Studio. So I think it's great. It helps you highlight, bring the eye, right? Help the user see exactly what's important so they can take the actions that they need to take. And they're not sitting back here trying to figure out what's what. So awesome in terms of that. Now, equally as awesome, and this is if you use pivot tables. I actually don't have a pivot table on this one, but know that the interactions, which if you haven't used these before, these are super useful. These have been around for a while and you should be using these, but here I just turned on interactions. So if I click on Infusionsoft, everything in this table is now being reduced down to just showing me Infusionsoft stuff. If I click on Google, now because I've interacted with this table, I've made it interactive, it basically acts as a filter. All the other tables and charts and diagrams are being filtered by Google only, right? That's how that kind of works. So that's interactions. That's what that is. Well, now it used to be you couldn't do that with pivot tables. Now you can. So if you use pivot tables in your charts, if you have a pivot table set up, you can now turn on interactions there as well, so that you have that in there. So I thought that was also kind of cool. Like they're available to do that. Other things, very simple thing, but I think just in terms of usability, just know that you can do this now. So when you go to an image, you have the option of doing it by URL. So I can come in here, what used to be me having to download something and then upload it. Then it became you can drag and drop. So you can at least drag it from your desktop into Data Studio, which was one of the more recent updates. Now I can go in here, grab the client's logo, hit copy image address, come in here, paste the address in, hit insert, bam, there's my logo, done. Now I can put it up there with build the dashboard out for the client. So, or I can go find something on the web that I like as an image, copy that image address, paste it in. So I now have that ability in Data Studio. So much easier to get images into your dashboards. And remember, images are what make the thing look good. And the better that it looks, the easier, the more fun that it looks to get through from a user's perspective. And not for you necessarily. You might be a numbers person. But for the end user, Data Studio, if you make it clean and simple and obvious when it comes to using it, they will use it and they will take action because of what they learn there, and then they will use it again and they will love you. And that's what I like about Data Studio is you have this versatility. They're making it easier for us as a builder to create these reports that the end users can use and get a lot more value from faster than they could have before. So that was really it. There was one other thing which was tiny, but I liked. And I'm gonna see if I can duplicate this real quick. So we're gonna go into. I'm just gonna add a data source in. So let's do this. I'm gonna go to create a new data source and see if I can get this to do this. So we're gonna go into analytics. So we're gonna use Google Analytics as the data source. There we go. And we're gonna select Google Analytics. Hopefully this will work. I'm going to go into demo accounts. We're in merchandise store. We'll pull up a test view and we'll click on connect. Now we have this, which is the normal thing that comes through and says, okay, yes, do you want me to, here's how everything is. And in something like Google Analytics, this is all going to be roughly set properly. There was, by the way, some adjustments they've made in this process that sort of behind the scenes, this is what it says, we've improved how they work. So there's some behind the scenes stuff that have gone on to make it a little bit cleaner. That is one of the updates from October, but nothing really front facing, just things to help it make it easier. But when you click on add to report, you see this. And you see this every single time. So it's kind of like a double opt-in in a way. It's like, yes, please add a report. And then it's like, do you really want to add the report? You're about to do this. And I've never not wanted to add to report when I select add to report. So I've never understood that. I'm sure there was a reason for it, but I've never understood it. Well, obviously I'm not the only one because they added this. So now you can say, you know what? Never show me this thing again. Add to report. And now it should never ask us again. So now that goes out of the way. So now you have the option to skip that sort of like, hey, are you sure you want to do this thing that you just told me you want to do? Step. So, and again, I think there's a reason for that, but we don't really need it. Obviously, this is not set up to the right scorecard. Let me just pull this up. It always bugs me when, let's do that. Oh, come on. We got something in here. I'm sure we've got something in here that came from those. No, I'm pulling up everything I know is not going to work. Let's do this. Acquisition, age. What do we have in there? There you go. So there's age, just to show that it's working. But that's it. So now we've got, that's how we're pulling it up, and we've got data coming through. And now I never have to worry about seeing that little box again. That's really the update, is that the ability to turn off that box from showing up and having a double opt-in. That actually came at the very last moment in October 31st, as a matter of fact. So some really cool things. So those are the biggest deals that came through with Google Data Studio. Also for pivot tables, you can now do heat maps too. So that was something else you couldn't do with pivot tables. You can now do that as well. So there you go. All right. So now, actually, you know what? I take that back. I think conditional formatting you cannot do. I think I misstated that earlier. Conditional formatting, I don't believe is possible with a pivot table. Let me just TBV that. We're going to verify that right now. I'm going to put it in a little dummy pivot table. And let's see. So there's our pivot table. I'm going to bring this down so we can see some stuff. Here we go. And then let's go to style. Yeah, no conditional formatting, but you can do heat maps. That was the addition. I knew there was an addition to pivot tables. So let's go into number and say it's a heat map now. There we go. There's our heat map. So, and of course we can change the colors of that heat map and make it whatever we want. So that was the change of pivot tables. So I apologize, I misspoke earlier. So it is pivot tables. You can now do the conditional format, the heat maps. You can now do heat maps, pivot tables, conditional formatting, not yet. But maybe sometime soon. Once you do, my guess is it'll show up in the style. So stay tuned for that. And again, great job to all the teams. Tag Manager, for analytics, for Data Studio. They've done amazing work evolving these tools. And now you know about the latest and greatest updates as you've covered them here. Okay, so your next steps, really, what's your one thing? Pull the thing where you're like, oh, that's cool. That solves a problem I didn't have before, or I didn't know that I had now. And you can go back and fix it, practice it. Definitely be aware of PII if you have not scrubbed your own Google Analytics for that. Again, just simple things like searching your page views and looking for @symbols. Like there's lots of different ways to do that. But really, if as a company you've made that decision to sort of postpone that and not set up PII redaction as a standard way of dealing with Google Analytics or customizing your own Google Analytics, it's important to do that so that you don't all of a sudden have to lose data because you are accidentally covering PII. I also love the fact that they are at least saying, hey, we're going to have to delete this part of it out. We're not shutting down your account or anything crazy. It's just, you got to get rid of this because we can't keep this, because that's going to really help us all level up our skills as measurement marketers. So that was great. Tag Manager, for sure, explore and practice using, even on a demo container that you create, the custom templates and playing with the templates, because now they are accessible to everybody. Whereas before it was really more of a developer's universe, I think. And now they've, just like Tag Manager always does, it comes out and it's super geeky at first, which is awesome, but only for super geeky. And then it filters down to the rest where everybody else can start using it, right? People like you and me can really start taking advantage of this incredible customization that is back there, because the super geeky people are out there developing things and helping move this tool forward, which I'm incredibly grateful for, that the community is out there developing and helping move this platform forward. It's amazing. It's awesome. And I love it. So templates for sure. And thank you to everybody who continues to build that out, especially Simo Ahava. It was amazing. So also check out Simo Ahava's post on redacting PII if that's an issue that you might be facing. And then finally, of course, Data Studio. All bunch of changes that came through Data Studio. So conditional formatting, the fact you can do heat maps and pivot tables, the fact that you can add URLs in images, the fact that you can do the contrast and pie charts, like lots of different cool stuff that are back there. The fact that you can skip the double opt-in thing that was happening when you add to report to actually confirm that you wanted to add to report, like all of that. Little things that are big differences that make the tool easier to use, more flexible, so that you can provide a great dashboard to your stakeholders. All right. So if you want to learn any of this stuff, if you are kind of in the process of building skills, you want to learn how to do all this stuff, and you want to learn maybe Tag Manager now or Data Studio, check out measure.tips/courses. It is all of our courses back there. These are individual bite-sized courses, typically 4 to 7 lessons. Our job is not to teach you every single bell and whistle that these tools do, because I don't think that's useful. I think it's useful to get in there, get a specific benefit, get a skill, and then you move out of it and get something else. It's kind of like just-in-time learning, right? You don't need to know everything. You need to know, like, what do I need to know now? What I need now. That's what WIN stands for. It's what I need now. So measure.tips/courses will take you there, so you can get a list of everything that we currently have. And we do new courses every 4 to 6 weeks. So there's always something new back there. They also have the Academy. So measure.tips/start. So the Academy itself, in fact, I'll just show you because I happen to have that open. So in the Academy, you will notice as I pull that up right here, we've got all the WIN courses, so it comes with all the different WIN courses. You'll have access to those. You have access to every one of these workshops. All of these workshops end up in the workshop library, so you can reference them later. You can actually search for a topic. Let's do filters. Search for, I need to learn how to do a filter in Google Analytics, or I want to redact PII, like any of that stuff. So if I come in here and redact PII, let me just make sure this is going to work. I love testing this live too, just to make sure that my search is working the way I want. I got to fix that because I know I have that in there. So let's just try PII. There we go. So how to remove? I should put in the word redact. That's the technical jargon, but I guess people don't say redact as much as remove. So there's the workshop on that. So you can come in here and you can kind of get the exact things that you need. So Academy is definitely a little more robust. It is made for teams as well, so that you have different logins. There's actually 4 logins total that you could have. You would have one, and you could of course have 3 others that you can set up with your team, so that everybody can get help the way they need it. So we have our little support section with getting help. They can go to the winner circle. We have a Facebook group with a peer group. Ask an Instructor is a way for you to have a direct connection with our instructors. Of course, we're doing this stuff all the time, so you can send over videos and screenshots and ask, literally show us an over-the-shoulder view of what your question is, and then we can give you videos and screenshots back. So we give customized support there, and it's just a perk of being an Academy member. Of course, you've got access to the toolbox as well. So the toolbox is all of the different resources that we've created. So we have these that are back here, as well as a ton of others that other people have created that we've collected over the years that are useful. So you have access to those as well. And we're updating this all the time as well. So there's new resources every month. So et cetera, et cetera. And you also have Academy office hours. So Academy office hours basically is like group coaching. So we have our next one coming up in 43 minutes. So you can click to join this. It's once a week. We have the recording for the last week on there. So if you need to get caught up, you can. But this is basically your chance to talk live with an instructor who's hosting that call each and every week. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's one of our other instructors here. But the goal is that you can now talk it out. And sometimes that's just something you need to do. So you talk it out with somebody. You can share your screen. Everybody's there. It's typically small groups of 10 or less that show up for the office hours. But it's just a little brain trust, and you get a lot more quality from it. So we help you to do that as well. That's included with every single Academy purchase as well. And of course, remember, there's 4 logins. So everybody from your team, they all have the 4 logins. They can all 4 join Academy office hours if they need the help. So that's Academy, measure.tips/start to go there. Now, of course, we remind you every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern is the Academy office hour. So if you're an existing Academy member, of course, thank you. We love having you. And be sure to join us, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. You already have your links. They've already been set out. Or like you saw just moments ago, the link is in the members area as well. Just click on that little link and it'll start the call for you. And we will see you at 3:30 p.m. Eastern for Measurement Marketing Academy's office hours member Q&A. All right, next week's topic. We do rotate workshops each and every week. This week's topic was the What's New category. So it's all about the features and updates of the last 30 days. Next week, we come back to the beginners and we're what we call our Getting Started topic, where it's understanding triggers in Google Tag Manager. So we're going to talk about how to think about triggers, the different types of triggers, kind of what's possible. Because sometimes with Google Tag Manager, it's a little bit about the technical, like how to use the tool, but a lot of times it's what's even possible. I didn't know this thing was even a thing, right, that I could do with Google Tag Manager. So we're going to talk about triggers, how to use them, what's back there, the different types of triggers, things you can do with Tag Manager, and really understanding triggers in Google Tag Manager. And of course, after Getting Started next week, the week after that will be a Beyond the Basics, where it'll be a little bit more advanced topic in a particular platform. After that, it's a strategy session for those of you that are more on the strategy side of things and maybe not on the implementation side of things. And then we'll rotate back to what's new, and we'll cover the changes that happened in November. See how this works? That is Workshop Wednesday. Now, Workshop Wednesday is technically free to anybody who wants it. So if you want any of these videos, you want access to all the videos that we do each and every week, measure.tips/WW will get you there. It is a free program. Of course, it's included with Academy and Workshop Wednesday anyway. Sorry, Academy or Win Monthly Pass anyway. But Workshop Wednesday, you can get by itself. So if you don't want the other stuff, totally get you. We still want to be able to help you out. So every week, we do a new workshop covering those 4 different categories, one each week, and measure.tips/WW. So we do not make all of these workshops public. This particular one, we are, because it's an updates one, and I want to make sure that people knew about these updates. I think they're pretty important. So we want to make sure we get the word out there. But some of the other stuff we don't do. So the only way to get access to them is measure.tips/WW. Join Workshop Wednesday is currently free. So take advantage of that while you can. And then you get to log in and you can watch the workshop for that week. And then the next week it's replaced out with a new workshop. Like that's it. That's kind of how that whole thing works. But that's how you get access to them all. And of course, we'll send you an email every week that says what the topic is so that you can decide if you want to join. Okay. That brings us to a close. You have just watched What's New, updates and features released in October 2019. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we will see you on the next. Take care.